Not too far away, and not too near, lies a place that feels like a soft, warm blanket, the kind that still holds the memory of a hug from someone you love. A place where every thread is a story, quilted from memory, imagination, and spirit. This is Threadbare. There are villages of yarn, towers of thimbles, hills of blankets stacked so high they might pass for mountains. There are tiny people, no bigger than a pinprick, who live in pockets of paragraphs, forests of tall tales, and quilts stitched together entirely from stanzas. They sow songs like wheat, harvest memories spun by wordworms, trade stories, the way you might sort marbles in a pocket. But every story needs a keeper. You slept in the drawer of an ancient sewing machine, curled amongst the broken needles and frayed spools. You had nothing, not a stitch, not a scrap, not even a button to your name. But then the first stitch whispered apart in the dark, followed by another, and slowly the fabric began to unravel. From the edges crept the void, pulling at loose threads, unmaking patches, leaving only silence and holes. And that is when you woke, for you are the story weaver. Through story quests, you will gather threads and restore what has been lost, dreams recovered, sorrows faced, worlds rebuilt, one story at a time. Every quest a patch, every story a stitch placed back where it belongs. From the warm hearths of Frey's End to the edges of the void itself, Threadbare is more than a place to explore. It is a living world, open, unfinished and waiting. Built by players who become creators. Every quest you see was made by someone like you. This is your invitation. Play the world and then help build it. Join us in building the game.
Hello and welcome back to the Loom Lounge. This is our 9th episode and we are back in English. So it's really, really amazing for us to be back here with you. This is the Loom Lounge is ultimately where we talk about the game that we are developing live and open to the public. And so we're here to do that. And this is a slightly different episode because we have some news that we would like to share with you. And it's really exciting. So before we do that, we want to just do a very, very brief hi from everyone. And you can see our names and whatnot in there. But let's go. My name's Stephen Reid, and I am the Creative Director of Threadbare and the VP of Learning Experience at Endless Access. Heather.
All right. I am the Director of Learning Programs. My name is Heather Drollet. Thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you to everyone for joining last week, which was our Spanish episode, and we got a lot of participation in that. So gracias to everyone for joining that.
Los queremos.
Los queremos. Yeah.
Los queremos.
How do we do, Manuel?
Perfecto. Perfect.
Great.
Yes. Hello, I am Manuel, and I am a software engineer. I am part of the Threadbare games team, and together with Will.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm the other developer on the games team at Endless, and together, along with many other people, we're building Threadbare.
Exactly. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think it is worth mentioning, actually, Will, you say that we are developing it with other people, but actually, for those watching at home, we do have 2 core developers. And so if you're looking at games out there and you're thinking, wow, I'd love to build a game, but I'm going to need an entire studio. It does take a village to build a video game, but actually we've got the incredible talent of both Will and Manuel, and they are our core developers, and they are doing some phenomenal work as a kind of a two developers in a team. So that's fantastic. Now let's crack on. One question I do have for the team before we get to the news is, and it's related to the news, is what's the best villain that you've ever experienced in a game? And I don't mean like a boss, like there was this thing with an axe and it came down and kind of bounced around the screen. I mean the cleverest kind of blocker, if you like, in a game, like a force or an entity or a something that kind of stood against you in a video game. What do you think?
Can I start?
Yeah, please, Manuel.
In my case, so I was a fan of Monkey Island, and I remember LeChuck. So who is LeChuck? What is this person? Is this a ghost? Is what is LeChuck? And so it was a mystery in the whole game, and I really liked that.
Yeah, the ghost pirate. You never knew quite where he was, when he was, how he was, what he was. Like you never really knew any of that. Yeah. I absolutely loved Monkey Island. Yeah, that was fantastic. Anyone else?
Well, I was trying to think about, what feels like a century ago. I went to a talk where the line that stuck in my head is the enemy is the random number generator. So in like roguelike games, you have, like, of course, there are enemies who you're fighting against, and there are bosses and stuff. But really, the ambient danger is like everything is random, and today the dice might come up unlucky, and it's just really hard today. And that's one of the things I like about those games is that it's always fresh. If they're balanced well, they feel fair. But you know that today might be the day when it's just a disaster and you can't get anywhere.
Yeah, uncertainty is the enemy. That's like the Bindings of Isaac. You never know which room you're going to get when you walk up. So you're just constantly in this state of tension because you don't know what the next room's going to reveal. Excellent. Heather, any ideas?
That makes me think the unknown being the villain is something, or the uncertainty is something that I think of in games like the new one, Arc Raiders, where it's a human thing where you go up to the surface and you battle with the robots, but you meet other humans that are playing this game, other players, and you don't know if they're a friend or foe. So the unknown of not knowing if they're a villain or not is actually like a meta villain.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my favorite would be time as the enemy in Deathloop. I mean, I'll talk about Deathloop on every episode if I get the chance, but I absolutely love that game, and time is the enemy. You are restricted by time. You are stuck in a time loop. There are only certain things that you can do with the time that you've got, and so you're constantly working against this limitation that is time. And despite all of the other things that are going on in the game and all of the other struggles that you might have, time is the one thing that you are constantly aware of as both an ally and a massive tension, a blocker, an enemy, very often an enemy actually, and so on. Someone had also suggested earlier when we were asking about this that the darkness in Don't Starve, if you're familiar with the Don't Starve series, just the idea that you play during the day and you get a chance to collect sticks and build a thing and make a trap because you know that when night falls, the forest comes alive and all the creatures will come for you. And so it's that ever looming, like, I mean, technically it's the creatures that will finish you, but it's the nighttime coming that is the
pressure of a deadline.
Pressure, yeah.
Minecraft mode, right? The survival mode, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So you have some big news, and Heather, do you want to talk about what that is? Make an announcement.
Yeah. So we have a big announcement. Following everything that Threadbare has done and what we've become, we're about to launch our first development pack. So this is our big news: is that we have an adventure pack. And it is called the Void Pack, and it includes the Void. And so I think the question that we just asked is really relevant because the Void is a villain in Threadbare, but it's not necessarily a monster. And I think we're going to talk about that a little bit and kind of get into that today. And then the releasing of an adventure pack, what that looks like for an open source game, we'll talk about that as well. But I will throw it back to Stephen for the definition of the Void.
Let's do that. I mean, the Void's something that I've been extremely pushy about and passionate about as the creative director. I'm like, we have this existential threat, and I'll start with that. The Void, for me, is the existential threat. It's the thing that if the Void is allowed to do what it does, then there is no Threadbare and none of us get to play. So it's actually what we've tried to create is this existential enemy of our own playfulness, of our own ability to even engage with the game to begin with. It's and yet interestingly, it's not conscious, it's not intentional, it does bad, it doesn't know that it's evil, it's just a void. And actually you can see in the background of Will's background frame there is the void. Anything that you see is that's like this sort of night vision with stars. I mean, if you look carefully, you can't really see it on there, but if you're in the game yourself, it kind of sits, it's the nothing that sits behind everything. And to go into more detail, I think it starts with building out the world. We've built this beautiful world. We have eternal looms and elders that sit behind me now. We've got trees and villages, and we have regions of the world like the song sanctuaries and the mythical meadows, which is part of our new lore jam, which we will also talk about in a moment. The song sanctuaries, the velvet valleys, we've got all of these wonderful regions. Within those regions are towns like Frey's End, which is the last bastion of civilization that's kind of holding the world together. We have Linenville and so on. We have characters like the Elders and the Story Weaver and Bob and Blench and so on. And as we build this world out, it's almost like, does it just continue to expand? Do we all just live happily ever after in this like lovely, stitched, beautiful world? But the truth is, if we think about back to our first and second episodes, I think when we talked really about what Threadbare is pieced together in this fabric storytelling world. And that's really important to why the void exists. I'm wearing black today, actually, just for the void. Did you see how I even themed myself? But it's really important because the whole idea is that our world is held together because people tell stories. People have imagination, people have memory, and people have spirit, and they combine those threads to tell stories. And we do that in real life. Our cultures are held together. Our towns, our cities, our villages, our families are held together by the stories of our past and our lineage and our heritage and our shared experiences, life and all of the things that happen, whether it's geopolitical or otherwise. All of that is storytelling. And we decided that in order to be able to create this existential threat to that world, we had to imagine the unpicking of that storytelling. And so it was really simple for me when I first sort of started thinking about it was, what does it mean when people stop telling stories? What does it mean when community stops caring? What does it mean when we stop sweeping our steps or we stop talking to our neighbors? What does it mean when an entire community forgets their language? And we've seen this all over the world, not just with the Scots, but with so many African dialects and others. When languages are forgotten, and that's it. It's like a collective amnesia. It's an unintentional. I say unintentional.
Right?
Yeah, it's unambitious, it's not vicious,
yeah.
it's not conscious, it's just forgetfulness. It's just the dying of a community, it's the dying of a culture, it's the dying of a history, it's stories that were no longer told. And if you think about it, I actually saw a thing a while ago, it was online, and it said, it was a meme online, there's so many memes online, and it said, in 200 years, no one will remember your name, and a whole new crew will man this ship, i.e. planet Earth. An entirely new crew will man this ship, and no one will remember who you were. And sad though that is, it kind of struck me in a threadbare kind of philosophical sense. I was like, this is the thing though, is that if we don't hold on to those stories, if we don't thread those cultural histories, if we don't pass on those narratives to our children and grandchildren and beyond, then there is nothing to remember. And so that was where the nothing kind of came from. It's this unreasoning collective amnesia, community carelessness that just kind of becomes when we stop telling stories. And so
I think you've answered the question that we had in chat. Hi, Becky. I hope you're doing well. The question that Becky had was, is the void a metaphor? And she's like, I see a writing prompt in there, and spoken like a true educator. And
such
absolutely,
a powerful metaphor.
Yeah.
And it makes
the
a lot
whole
of
game.
sense that the void is the main antagonist then, because
Yeah, I mean, we can have bosses and we can have creatures and we can have major storyvores that are eating all the stories. But actually, the truth is, these creatures are the manifestation of the nothing. They
lack of
exist
care.
because the
Yeah.
nothing came along, the lack of care.
Mhm.
And as we're watching this, I don't want to get too kind of like deep on this, but have a think about how that might be impacting you in your real life, in your real community. If you're watching us at home, have a think about, well, what is that collective amnesia? What is that community carelessness? What does that look like in my space, in my my place, and have a little think about that. And so what it does at once, and I think we can get into discussing this, but what it also does at once is it gives us something to push back against. It gives a reason for when we reach out to the community and we say, hey, come and build a story quest with us. We go to Peru and we say to the children in Peru, build a story quest for us. And we've seen some beautiful story quests coming out of Peru, for example. The very act of building a story, making a story, telling the story, weaving that story into the game pushes back the void. It reweaves Threadbare, and Threadbare becomes whole again. And so, and that
is motivation.
Yeah, and it's a perpetual thing, right? Because it's like if people, it's almost self-fulfilling, because if we stop playing Threadbare, the void will only grow. And so it's almost like this impetus to kind of like, please come and help us to play and contribute to Threadbare, because the void, otherwise we just leave a void. And that's the nothingness of an undeveloped and uninstalled video game, which is a sad thing, right?
So how does the void, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to ask if anyone has any other thoughts on that. Nope. Oh, good. Next question.
I was gonna ask then, how does the void in the game, now thinking of this as a metaphor for the world and storytelling, how does the void spread? What does that look like in the game? What are the different ways that the void presents itself, and how is it scary? How does it feel scary?
So, we have, I mean, I can talk about it, creative, in terms of the creative direction, and then over to Will and Manuel for how that was actually implemented. But there's 3 stages to the void. The first is void creep. And when we talk about, remember, it's unintentional. So the void doesn't meaningfully do this. It's just void creep is when it starts to creep in. We use that word on purpose. It's like where it's not that you intentionally stopped telling stories, you just didn't have time to read or read to your children. It's not that you forgot, that you purposefully chose to dislike your neighbor. You just forgot their name. It was that guy that lives down the road. I can never remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue, but you just couldn't quite remember. It's that sort of slow creeping forgetfulness of connection that we have as human beings. And thus is happening in here. It's that book that you always said you were going to write, but you never bothered. It's like, one day I'm going to write a book, and then you never do. Or one day I'm going to write a blog. I'm hugely guilty of this. I'm going to write a blog, and then I never do. These are so that's the creep, the slow drip of that cultural forgetfulness. There was this story that my grandmother used to tell, but I can't remember the details. And so you choose not to remember the details going forward, and the story is lost. And so that's the void creep. It's those sort of thin filaments unraveling, and they picks away at the stitches of the fabric of Threadbare, and that's where we get the fraying. So when we talk about Frey's End being the last bastion of civilization, that's the town that is holding back this constant unpicking of the stitches.
And what does the void creep look like in the game?
Yeah, so actually the void creep is the stillness. The void creep is this kind of like behind Will. It's like this, it's just this nothingness. It doesn't move, it doesn't pulse.
It's chasing Will right now, actually.
Yeah, it's chasing. All right. Well, it just kind of sits there, and it's that quiet emptiness that's left behind with the forgetfulness. Then we have void blisters, and void blisters are when it starts to get a little bit more aggressive, and this is where and again, unintentionally, it's made of our own forgetfulness, but this is where things start to blister. This is where it starts to move into, like, trees will blister, buildings will blister, the tile set starts to blister. We end up with these sort of globulous orbs, if you like, that are like pulsing. And that's where pockets of frustrated void, like these ultimate, like, any minute now, this culture will be lost, this language will be lost. That word that was on the tip of your tongue, it will never come back. Pop, you know. And so those void blisters kind of creep in, and we purposefully went for this. I mean, I'm scratching while I'm doing it because I almost want it to be like a disease. I want it to feel like a disease. And then the third is void bloom, and that's where, and I used bloom very specifically in this one as well, that's where we've lost it. The void is now blooming, and in its own right, the void is a beautiful thing. You know, I'm making it sound like it's a disease, but in its own right, the void is this glorious kind of like empty, silent nothingness, and it's blooming now. And that is when it comes after you. It almost takes on, it senses, if you like, or it's almost like, it seems like it senses the impending forgetfulness, it senses the carelessness, and it's like, I'm having some of that. It almost has a hunger by that point. And we'll talk about that later, because Will and Manuel have done some fantastic work on manifesting those three different ways that the void kind of presents itself.
Yeah, we'll see it in action in a little bit, right?
We'll see it in
action. Demo. Yeah, that's great. So the origin of the void, it's not a villain, like you said, it's just nothingness.
Yeah.
The void itself, but where did it come from? There's a story behind the void. Right?
There is, yeah. So in order to be able to create this, we had to think about, when you build the lore of a game and you build the lore of a world, it's like, because lore is made up of the answers to the thousands of questions that people will ask. If you think about, I often refer people to Star Wars, for example, and say, think about the canon, right? People wonder where Admiral Akbar came from and what species was Admiral Akbar, and now there's books that will tell you all about Admiral Akbar and his species, and there's all sorts of questions about when ships were made and when this happened and when were midichlorians first discovered. This is all lore. One of the big mistakes, and I will put this out publicly, but one of the big mistakes that I think they made in the Star Wars universe was telling us how Han Solo did the Kessel Run. No one needed to know that. It was legendary. It should have remained lore and legend. No one needed a movie about it. Call me if I'm wrong, but I'll fight with you over it. But I'm very precious about that kind of lore. So as we build lore, and as we've sort of as a team, and we've all done this as a team, we've been very connected as a team on building the lore of the world and being very careful about, well, this must be stitched, and this story must be half told, and this name must be half forgotten. I mean, we have characters like Frith Freywalker and Noria Needlenest and Alfia Zolpatch, and all of these characters are kind of semi-mysterious and they're half told. And one of those characters is Bobbin Blench, and he existed. The story of how the void came to be was exactly as I've described it, as a philosophical kind of thing. Was Bobbin Blench was given the very prestigious position of taking over from his long lineage, taking over the organization of the Loom Light Festival. And the Loom Light Festival was where all of the wisps of the world would gather with all of the people. And on this very particular island, they would basically have this huge light festival that everyone from Threadbare went to celebrate. And Bobbin Blench was given the leadership of this, but Bobbin Blench was lazy. Bobbin Blench could not be bothered to manage that process, and he only wanted to fish. And so he did. He went fishing. And that particular year, and it sounds menial, this is how it starts, you see, we're very clever when we write this stuff, is the festival just didn't quite happen the way it was supposed to. Acts didn't show up, food wasn't prepared properly, flags didn't go up like they did last year, the wisps didn't really know what they were supposed to do when they got there, and so they kind of, people tried to pull it together, but there was no real sense of an organization. And why? Because Bobbin Blench was off fishing. And that's all it took, because the following year some people didn't show up, and some wisps didn't even show up. And some people made only half the food that they would have made the year before. And then the year after that, it was worse, and the year after that. And now the Loom Light Festival doesn't happen at all. And you might think that that's bad enough. I want to go to the Loomlight Festival. But actually, that's where the void began. It was the essence of the original forgetfulness. It was the fact that the Loomlight Festival, which was a huge storytelling festival, stopped happening. People stopped sharing stories. Clans stopped coming together. Foreigners stopped coming from foreign lands. The people of the song sanctuaries used to come and sing songs, and the people of the parable pass used to come and tell parables and have people work them out. And and they stopped coming. And in doing that, the world began to fray. People stopped sweeping their steps. People stopped catering for other people. People stopped hanging flags up on their buildings with Loomlight pride. And so over time, it stopped happening. And that forgetfulness began to creep in. And so the world became unstitched. And as the world became unstitched, entire regions disappeared. Entire regions were split from other regions. There are swathes of void that you could never cross in a million years now, because the divide is too far. This division now is too great. And it all started with the lazy bum, Bobbin Blench. So he gets the blame.
And we do not have yet an image
We
of
do
Bobbin
not.
Blench, because that is something that someone could contribute,
That's right.
So the character, the concept art for Bobbin Blench, pixel art for Bobbin Blench,
Actually,
additional stories about
yeah,
Bobbin.
we don't have anything to do with the Loomlight Festival. We have the story, which is called The Legacy of The Legacy of Bobbin Blench by Noria Needlenest, who is a scientist from the Observatory of the Unseen. She's like a historian from there. And she... we don't even have her. So this is the beautiful thing about creating this lore, is like when we create that lore, it invites people to come to Threadbare and make it. So they're like, well, I want to make Noria Needlenest. Great, do that for us. I want to tell the story of the Loomlight Festival. Great, go do that for us. And we haven't done that yet.
Can the place in which the Loomlight Festival occurred be a place in the world that you can explore? Interesting.
Yeah, we would love that. We would absolutely love that. And I
And
think
maybe
one day,
telling a bit about the lore by finding documents or maybe a cinematic event. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we invite by creating that lore that we don't explicitly talk about. And I mean, we talk about it in the form of like the history of Bobbin Blench, but then we don't go make it, because that's what we want our community to do. So that's actually really nice. And you can read about Bobbin Blench. You can read the whole Noria Needlenest account of Bobbin Blench on our wiki, which our team can put in the the messages.
It's in the GitHub repository. You go to the wiki tab and then you can find it.
That's it. Excellent.
Great. So we were talking about this as a launch, right? So earlier I said we have a big announcement. We're launching the Void Pack. It's an adventure pack. We're going to have multiple adventure packs, and we are going to be launching the Void Pack. What's odd about that announcement is that we're announcing something that's been in the game for a while. And that feels a little odd, because it's like, well, people have had access to the Void. They've seen the Void. It's a little different when you publish something through an open source, or when you're developing something through an open source methodology, where people can see your work all the time, and then we're saying we have a launch. So what is that like for our team? Let's talk about that. Why are we shipping it now?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start, but this is definitely one for the engineers. I think what's really interesting about this is I was like, wait, we're not going to have like launched adventure packs. Like, we're not going to have these packs that we develop and then we go, hey everyone, because this is what I'm used to doing. I mean, I worked at Minecraft for years, and it was like, hey everyone, we've just introduced bees, or we've just introduced polar bears, or we're going to have a cliffs and caves update. And it was a huge announcement every year that drew thousands, if not millions of players back. Games all over the world do that. And I was genuinely like, what, we can't do this? And Will, quite rightly, met me on the other side and said, well, no, we don't develop this in private. That's the whole point. It's open to the public. It's developed with the public. And so there can't be an over-the-wall content dump. It has to be done as part of that sort of like open source thing. So yeah, over to our engineers. I mean, it's an interesting way of working.
Yeah, it's an interesting problem, right? I mean, there are some middle grounds that we could explore. Like, It's quite common in very large projects like web browsers to have feature flags where you develop the code in the open, but in released versions, certain stuff is just disabled, and so you can't access it.
Yeah.
And then you iterate and iterate and iterate, and eventually, when you decide it's ready, you just flip one switch, and the thing appears. So we could imagine doing that, but this is all like you have to add more infrastructure to the game to do this. But by developing this in the open, it's nice because there is you can get people playing from the very beginning, from very early in the development. I was just looking at the timeline of this pack, and the first pre-release of Threadbare with this was in September last year, but it was only just the first level, we'll see in a minute. But there is a cost, right, to, as you say, to everything always being public, in that it's harder to declare we've made a thing. So I think
to draw the line, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Drawing the line, you could keep polishing the thing forever, and I think we plan to. But what I think is different here is, you said it was sort of an engineering question, but actually I think one of the things that makes it feel done now, there's control tweaks, there's stuff we could do, but the three elements that it was missing until relatively recently were like in-game narrative with sort of coherent characters, final artwork, and music. And over the past few releases, we've added those things. Music a couple of months ago, and the final artwork in this most recent release. And I think those two together, although it's cosmetic, right? Like this is not a technical thing, but games are not technical beasts. Games are experiences. And so by swapping the kind of placeholder art where there was an enemy asset from a previous quest that we just reused as an NPC because we didn't have any other art, and now they've been palette swapped with someone else, the behavior is the same, but it feels totally different. Same with the music. When John Wright, our amazing composer, composed 3 pieces for this, which are composed to work well together, and I spent some time weaving them together so that you can switch between them based on what's happening in the game, it made a huge difference. The gameplay was exactly the same, but the environment that you get from the music and the arts made a massive difference.
And what was nice about the music actually was going back to our 3 stages of the void. We asked John to create a creep theme tune, a blister theme tune, and bloom theme tune. And so that was the 3 ways that they did that.
So Will, it's almost like there's a threshold at which we meet a threshold and then we release, or that's probably the wrong word. We launch the pack.
So sort of the thing with developing in the open is that everything can be as open as you want, but if no one's looking at it, it's a tree falls in a forest situation. So I think there is still even though with all the code and the assets are there as we add them, there is a difference between saying the thing exists in the world and us being here today to say, look, it's time. We've as you said, Manuel, you've drawn a line and say, okay, we've crossed a line where it goes from being converging on being some level of done to being done.
Yeah. And I think, Heather, you had a point earlier, which is that the narrative kind of sews all of that up together. So the narrative sews up the art, the sound, the music, and the technicality side. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, it ties it all together, but also I don't know that the story necessarily would be known or fully understood without the launch. So the story inspires the development of the pack, but it's not told through the actual code. You can see it, and if you are intuitive, you might pick up on the fact that this void is a thing that started somewhere. It must have. But being able to launch it means that we have a narrative that we can talk about and we can celebrate. And Bobbin can be known to the world, love him or hate him.
Yeah, and just a reminder to everyone that we started our own little thing in Threadbare. If you leave something undone, it is called to do a bobbin or to bobbin. So, to our engineers, no bobbins.
As someone who has done some sewing, bobbins are very frustrating for me, so I'm okay with that. Like winding a bobbin, I get it wrong every time.
And for someone who has left lots of things undone, I am the king of bobbins. So I'm just going to own that. My calendar is a whole, my email is a whole like list of bobbins. Yeah, calling it shipped is a really interesting one. It's been a process through which normally any other game would say, we did all this work, we've named it, packaged it, go have it. There's a huge update for Call of Duty almost every like 3 weeks or something like that, for example. And they might even charge for that. Some of these things are literally DLC packs and you buy them as optional extras, but we can't do that because we're developing it in the open consistently and with, not just for, but with our audience. So it's actually a fascinating thing for me because I haven't worked like this before.
So are we ready to show?
I think so.
What
I think it's time to
void
look at the
looks
void.
like?
Yes. Over to Will.
Tweak the levels a bit. I'm going to turn the sound effects down, the music down a little, but not as far as I might normally do, because I think the music is really something to celebrate.
Yeah.
Maybe someone else can narrate while I'm playing, because I'm not sure I can play it at the same time. Well, one thing is another thing that is in this release is this tutorial quest, but I'm just going to skip that. And we will instead go.
So we're starting in Phrase End, which is the main area, and then we head over to the lore quest Elder and have a chat with him. If we didn't mention this already, I think we mentioned it a couple of weeks ago, but we have night and day cycle in the game now. So sometimes you'll enter Phrase End and it'll be nighttime, and sometimes you enter and it's daytime, and we have all in between dawn, twilight, etc. So the colouring changes. It's fantastic. So we're heading into our void quest now. So in the story Weaver side of things, you find now that there's a void quest. And just for a moment before you play it through, we'll just have a look at the different types of void that we're seeing. So we're seeing the kind of general unstitched background side. And if you move around, people might see that the stars are kind of in amongst there. The stars are just the remnants of kind of these tiny little scraps of what's left when everything is forgotten. And then you can see that we have this, and it's eaten away. The void creep has eaten away at the world and left the frayed, stitched edges. And then what we can see is a pulsing kind of, our artist Pixel Frog made the artwork there, and we can see this pulsing kind of cloud. That's the void bloom. And the void bloom is just eager to eat away at that forgetfulness. And so Will is now going to kind of tease it into action. And as you're watching it, there we go. We've been caught and we've been unwoven, and then we are rewoven back at the beginning. We probably need a knit witch in there actually at the beginning. There we are. And for those of you watching the cloud, you'll see that it's actually eating away the landscape. The landscape is now gone and forgotten. If there was a tree there, it's not there anymore. If there was a bridge there, it's not there anymore. And depending on the route that you take, you can kind of tease that cloud out to do that. There we go. And manage to escape it. And if you just head back a bit, Will, just to show that eating away, you can see there that there was land there. Will did come through there and he made it to that bridge, but the void bloom has kind of eaten away the land and kind of left it missing. So that's called our Void Runner level. And as we develop these levels, as those of you who have been following us and will know, we develop these as templates so that learners can come into the game development space and say, I want to make a level like that. And so I'll talk more about that in a second, but you saw there that the camera zoomed out, and then because Will was able to go through the story with the monk at the end of that level, the world was rewoven and repaired. So that's what that shows. So we can go back and fix the world. The void is not the end of times, but it is fixable with storytelling and community care. There we are. So the monk says, take the story that I've told you, head back to Linenville. So as we move through this one. Now, this is where some amazing work, we can see now that the void came and left us on a small island. And this is where the work that we talked about a couple of weeks ago with Manuel kicks in, which is the grappling hook. And so now we're combining two separate things. This is void runner and grappling hook together.
And we can hear the music in the background. It changed a little bit there once the void came onto the screen.
Absolutely. Amazing work from John Wright, actually.
Yeah, the music transitions add so much to the game feel. Also, I love the parallax effects of the void, and that makes the show the stars.
Now, the void blisters you can now start to see. So for those of you, so far we've seen, for the viewers at home, we've seen the edge where it's kind of cleanly cut in the phrase, but actually this is where we can see above the story weaver there, we can see where the pulsing blisters.
They definitely look alive. Is the void alive?
Well, that's a question, right? That's a question for our viewers. Is it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So well collected.
It's definitely menacing because of the bubbles open.
The movement and the music, all of that plays into it.
And here it seems like it has affected the trees.
Yeah, you can see the void bloom on the brand, the trunk of the tree there, which means that that's it. The world is starting to be infected in this area because of a lack of storytelling. I love that little whistle of the music there.
One of the things I like about this sequence is, Manuel, I remember you drew some diagrams on paper of puzzles you could do with this mechanic, and one of them was hooking buttons around a corner which you couldn't otherwise reach. So I'm threading the needle through these, throwing the thread through these needles to reach buttons that I wouldn't otherwise be able to reach.
Yes.
And it's really cool to see the playable incarnation of something that was a sketch on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
This one is also fun. I think we could use this more. This drawing a circle around things.
Yeah. Almost like
little battles. Yeah.
Completing patterns and then getting more buttons. Now, we don't have a reason for the buttons yet. We are still working on that. The collecting buttons is something that we've developed, and that is open now. And we're quite willing for a community member to come in and say, I have an idea for those buttons. And we have our own ideas in the background, which of course we'll talk about on another stream. But right now, we don't know what to use the buttons for, but collecting them is a kind of a small gamification, if you like.
I like to leave those possibilities open for learners to come in and also apply them to their own story quests. So while we may not have a use for the buttons right now, or we're building that in, somebody who's building their own story quest may be like, oh, I know exactly what to do with that in my own story.
Yeah, we are.
Great opportunity for contribution, yeah.
Oh, now I think this one is the combination of grappling hook and a void run, right? Here it comes. Run, Will.
Doing great, Will.
Will.
Better you than me.
Whoops. He's collecting buttons. He's too confident. Oh no, he's got it. Get Will. Oh. Okay. Yeah, so you can see how we've combined it. And I mentioned earlier that we make these templates. So we hand levels like this to learners and say, okay, here is a very basic void mechanic in a very basic tile set. What we want you to do now is think about how you can apply this to your own game development. And so there's something really nice about having the ability, you mastered it, having the ability to just give this to kids and say, go make your own version. And they don't have to make it the void. That's the great thing about their story quests, is it doesn't have to be balls of wool and needles and threads and void. It can be, that could be their homework chasing them.
Yes,
and it could be a story
absolutely.
about
learners can use the components, the inner components, to do their own antagonists, for instance.
Yeah, absolutely. Any thoughts, feelings, challenges, or questions from our audience while we're demoing here?
Well,
I have a question for Will. I know that you had something you wanted to show us about developing this. There's a cool dev trick about the Starfield backdrop. Do you want to show?
Let me switch to a different window. Give me a moment. I'm gonna. It's definitely here.
That music is getting intense too. I'm feeling stressed just from the music.
Let's cut to something a little different, a little calmer. I think you should now. Well, I've now got a maximized window covering it, but I think you can see my. And you can't. It's disappeared. Well, let's imagine that you can see my display. Manuel, you mentioned this earlier. This star field that does where the stars don't move. As you walk around. So I've got on my screen share, I hope, come up shortly, one of the scenes from the game open.
Maybe we can look at the ingredients that make this whole thing. Like we have a shader for the stars.
Okay.
So there is like a parallax effect. Another thing we have for the void chasing is component that can we have different walk components. One of them is the I think it's navigation walk behavior. It's called like that, and basically follows another thing in the screen. And if that thing is assigned to the player, for instance, then it chases the player, but it can be anything. So it can be chasing another thing if you change the target, basically.
Yeah.
Then we have something that paints tiles, right?
Yeah. I'm trying to find the another scene. We'll jump to this one. So this is a different scene, which is to test the various movement components. And there's just various enemies just kind of wandering around doing stuff. And you can see that one of them is chasing another one. The orange one is chasing the purple one. But then if you go around to the edge of the map somewhere, I hope. Yeah, so this one is following me out to sea. And if sometimes they can come into the map but not elsewhere. So that is, I've drawn this region on the map to say this is where they're allowed to move.
Okay.
And then over here, there's an enemy who has this behavior which says, follow this other character and do so within this navigation region. So that's the same thing that we use in this Void Runner level. This huge box drawn over the level, this is the area that the enemy is allowed to walk in. So this enemy has two modes. When you start out, it's wandering along this path. And then when you cross the invisible switch here, it cuts to a mode where it's chasing you in this box. And then once you cross the bridge, this removes it from the level. One of the really fun things about this is that Manuel had developed these reusable behaviors. And I separately made this navigation area one, but then when I wanted to do this thing where it's just patrolling, I just reused a component that was already there. And so anyone, me, a learner, whoever it could be, another contributor, can plug the walk along a path component into their character. And we use that again in the tutorial. There's a NPC who walks along paths at various points. And again, it's just the same component, dropped straight in. Yeah, it was really great. But yeah, the other trick here is that there's this star field, and as I zoom in and out, if you look closely, the stars don't move, right? The stars, because stars are infinitely far away, and it even works in these bits where the tile is half torn. And I mean, there's a spoiler down here, but if I just this void layer has a shader applied to it. I'm just gonna disable the shader, and that's what it sort of actually looks like. The void tiles have this woven edge, and then this massive bright red region. It's full red, no other colors. And at the edges, there's these bits where it's sitting over the other tiles, and that's just plain grass underneath it. But then, so underneath all the starfield is grass. But then we have this shader, which buried in here somewhere is this bit of code. And we tell it it's a chroma key. It's it's the same thing that's replacing the background behind me, or it would be if I had a green screen. It's a green screen. It's a weather forecast thing. So we have this noise texture, which gives us something, and we put a threshold in to say, okay, some of this, not all of this noise is a star, but only the really bright points are stars. And then we just replace anything that has full red color with this star field.
Yeah.
And having done that, we also fix it to a position on the screen, not to its position in the game world. So we ignore the camera position and we just say, no, ignore where the camera is. Just think about the screen.
Which means when the camera moves, you get stars are moving behind you.
But I have the early prototypes open of this somewhere if we want to take a look at that as well.
Absolutely.
Because this,
That's great.
Let me just find my...
Are those mushrooms?
Yeah, there's some mushrooms in there. I hope you can still see this. Here we go.
Yes, we can see it.
That should be it. I hope it's the right one. I was juggling so many things. So yeah, the first iteration of this I made, and this has a static void asset. So this is, I think, Stephen, you drew this originally, right?
I did, yeah.
These are normal tiles, so there's nothing fancy about them. They're just like, well, actually there is something fancy about them, which is there was a terrain where when you draw it, it randomly chooses which variation to use.
Yeah.
So this map is not uniform. It's which I thought was a really nice touch, because it means that what would otherwise look quite monotonous looks as sort of random as the sky itself. But yeah, I was trying to reconstruct the kind of order of things here. So the first prototype I made of this was you flip a switch and it just eats the world. And it's not actually following you. It's just going along the path, and it just eats another row of tiles each time. And I thought this was kind of fun, but a little boring. So then I'm trying to remember which order I did these in. I tried this one. So I think I tried this one next, and you might recognize the shape of this level from being quite similar to what is still there. And so in this one, I used this placeholder asset of this guy, and then, you might recognize him from an earlier quest. But this is more like what we have now. He's walking around, he's following you. But the fact that he's a picture, not a cloud, makes a really big difference to how it feels.
It really does.
It's exactly the same code.
Exactly
the same. But because he's got legs walking in the sky, it doesn't feel good. But
this shows... Sorry, I was going to say this shows what the kids could do, right? The kids could be like, well, I'm going to take that and I'm going to change it to another thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. The other one I tried was this, where you have the world, and then there's just a slowly expanding...
Oh, I love this part.
Frontier. So I tried to do this, and so you kind of... There's a door here, and you can't get through the door. So then
you have to do something before it's too late.
Yeah, and so then the enemy becomes time. It kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier. Like, the void is inert, and you're just racing against the clock, and you've got to go flip a switch, which opens the lights. But if you can watch this, you might notice that every time the void advances, the whole world is freezing slightly.
Yeah, there's a slight.
And
barely noticeable, but there's a lag.
Yeah, and if you look at the edge, you can see that the grass edges are moving in as the void covers them.
Yeah.
And so now, in what we have released, that's not what happens. The void just covers up whatever's below it rather than erasing it. And it looks better, but also it's a performance improvement, because this has to go through and edit every other tile map layer to remove what's underneath it. And which was I couldn't make it fast. I couldn't make this fast, and I couldn't make it fun. So
I don't know though. I think I'd love to see others work, like maybe bring some learners in to work on that.
It would be great to see someone make this mechanic work, because I think there is what we ended up with, which is quite close to this. I mean, the shape is very similar. The island's very similar. It all looks probably quite familiar. I think it's good fun, but one of the pieces of feedback that we have had about it, and we've tweaked it a bit, is that it's quite an intense sequence, and that's intentional. It's supposed to be a little bit. You're supposed to feel something, and you're supposed to be defeated the first time you try it. But this one was, I think it would be nice to go for something which is a little less intense, and it's more of the kind of the creeping sense of inevitability. Something is coming towards you, but it's not quite so one false move and you're defeated.
Yeah.
So I think there's probably some Yeah.
So it's great to be revisiting these prototypes, these early prototypes.
Yeah. And this is, I mean, this is great. This is the work that kind of, it sits in the background, and on any other video game, you wouldn't get to see this. You would, you know, it's be 20 years or 50 years from now, they'll be in a museum or something like they've done with Grand Theft Auto, for example, and you can go see the original concept sketches and the original music and the original kind of half-made models. But we're doing it live with our audience.
Right.
Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah, and it's for the purpose of our learners who are, you know, really trying to get to a point where they can understand that iteration is important. You don't just all of a sudden start and have a game. You have to go through these levels of prototyping and iteration, and this is really inspiring for them. Speaking of our learners, I would like to congratulate the participants of Explore Godot, who are currently finishing today. Today is the last session for one of our programs we have running. Justin, one of our learning programs lead, is finishing up with them. There's a showcase, so I'm sure we'll be able to show some really cool work that they've done and kind of highlight them. Also, we have a lot of participants in a lore jam that we have happening right now. The lore jam is halfway. I think today might be the halfway point or a little past halfway. That will be finishing up on Sunday or Monday, somewhere around there, and we will be able to talk about that next week and the week after and just kind of celebrate some of the contributions that are coming in from the Lore Jam, as well as some of our additional programs in Peru and other places around the world. So we're excited to continue talking about how learners connect to this game. And yeah, let's finish up this episode. We only have a few minutes left. So the Void Pack is coming. What else do we want to say about that before we leave today?
Nothing, just play it. Like get in, play it, see how you can survive the void in the Void Runner levels, see how you can master that grappling hook that Manuel has so preciously made and made it so wonderful. Get in and play with it.
And tell us about it. We have, if you pause the game, there's a button in the menu to report a problem, which takes you straight to our GitHub with a bug report form, and it fills in which scene you were in, exactly which version you were playing, and it invites you to describe what the problem is. Now, you can take a kind of generous view of bug, and that's probably the easiest way to send us feedback about a scene. It's too hard. I tried it 50 times and couldn't beat it. That is a bug. If you want to give more general feedback, we also have a discussion forum on our GitHub, and we have a Discord. And we'd love to hear feedback there of a more, if it's not like this is bad or broken, or I found a place where you can see through the world and things like that, those feel more like bugs. But we'd also just love to hear what people think about it, what ideas these different sequences have, new ways that these mechanics could be combined with each other and with other stuff in the game that we haven't combined them with yet, because certainly we don't have all the ideas here. And there's there are billions of people in the world who will surely have better ideas than us for how to put these together, or at least ideas we haven't thought of.
Well, and the other alternative to feedback is do it yourself. So if you think I could take that void mechanic,
if you don't like it,
you think I could take that void mechanic and I could do this with it, or I could fix that thing that Will said he couldn't speed up.
Yes, please.
Please come and just get involved. You can get on our get to the repository, download the game, start making.
I think the lore that you have been explaining in this episode is a big inspiration for that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent. So looking forward to episode 10 then. We will be back on the road, and we will be at Serious Play in Germany, which we're very excited about. We're talking at Serious Play in Germany, and we are also we have an arcade. Threadbare will be in an arcade cabinet, which is going to be very exciting. But I won't give too much else away because we are going to do a live stream from there. We will be formally launching the live pack, the Void development pack to the world. We've done that here with you on the Loom Lounge. Don't tell anyone, but next week it's formally out. So just don't tell anyone. And we're going to be doing that. And also we are going to be... And we're sponsoring Serious Play as well, actually. We are sponsors of that event. And so we'll see you live from there. Last time I tried to do a live stream, some of you may remember, it was a disaster for me. So I'm hoping
we're going to do better
I'm
this
hoping
time.
the Serious Play is one thing I have learned is not to leave my laptop out and my battery pack out in the blazing sunshine, because these things tend to
let's just blame it on the void. I think the void got us that
No,
time.
it was me. No, it was me. I'm just going to be dead honest with you. It was me. Mr. Technology here got all the tech wrong. So yeah, we are we're going to be live from Serious Play, and we're very excited about that. So yeah. Thank you so much for tuning in. This has been amazing. We are Endless Access, and this is Threadbare. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.